The landscape inside the NFC East has started to feel different, and you can sense it even before the standings change. When a division rival makes a move that signals seriousness, it shifts the temperature for everyone else involved. That is exactly what happens when a franchise brings in a head coach with real weight behind his name. Someone who has already been through playoff wars and locker room pressure. From a Cowboys perspective, it does not matter that the move did not happen in Dallas. The impact still lands right at their doorstep. The arrival of John Harbaugh in New York immediately alters how the Giants are viewed across the league. This is not a long-term project hire or a bet on potential. This is a coach who walks into the building with instant authority. Players listen differently. Assistants respond differently. Preparation standards rise without a speech needing to be made. For Dallas, that means divisional games that demand precision, discipline, and full engagement from the opening snap. Talent gaps shrink when structure and accountability increase. And that is where complacency gets punished. Inside the division, the message is clear. The Giants are no longer comfortable drifting through rebuild phases or waiting on timelines to align. They are pushing forward now, and that urgency forces everyone else to respond. Dallas, Philadelphia, and Washington all feel that pressure in different ways. But the Cowboys feel it twice a year on the schedule. Those matchups stop being about surviving mistakes and start becoming tests of preparation and execution. This is where the ripple effect really starts to show, especially when you look at coaching staffs around the league. A high-profile head coach hire does not exist in isolation. It immediately shakes the assistant market, particularly on defense. Coordinators and position coaches understand that new doors open. When a respected leader takes over, suddenly, conversations multiply, leverage changes, and timelines get disrupted. For a team like Dallas, still navigating its own defensive coordinator search, that matters more than most fans realize. Even if the Cowboys were early to reach out to certain candidates, that advantage does not last long. Once other teams enter the same space, exclusivity disappears. Coaches talk, agents talk, options expand. That is the reality of an off-season where defensive minds are in high demand across the league. Dallas is not competing against one or two teams. It is competing against a market that is crowded, aggressive, and constantly shifting. There is also an interesting layer involving interim titles and technical designations. Some assistants, because of how their roles are labeled, cannot be blocked from interviews. That creates unexpected opportunities, but also intensifies competition. A candidate who might have flown under the radar suddenly becomes accessible, and once that happens, interest spreads quickly. For Dallas, that means staying alert without rushing into a decision that feels comfortable rather than correct. Patience becomes a critical skill here, even though it rarely feels good from the outside. The Cowboys are operating in an environment where defensive coordinator openings are already stacking up, and that number could grow as more head coaching decisions finalize. Strong candidates are pulled in multiple directions, and interviews do not unfold in clean, predictable sequences. That does not signal chaos. It signals a real search, one that acknowledges the complexity of the market. What stands out so far is how wide Dallas appears willing to cast the net. This does not look like a surface-level process designed to confirm a predetermined choice. Coaches with different backgrounds, different schemes, and different levels of experience are getting looks. Some bring long professional resumes. Others blend college and professional influences. And some are position coaches ready to step into a larger role. That range suggests the Cowboys are asking a deeper question about defensive identity. Not just familiarity, of course. The influence of the current head coach cannot be ignored in this league. Trust matters. Communication matters. Every head coach has preferences shaped by experience. The balance comes in making sure that comfort does not outweigh evolution. Early signs point to Dallas at least being open to ideas beyond its immediate circle, which is not something that always defined past cycles. That openness alone changes the tone of the search. One profile that continues to draw interest is the defensive coach rooted in line play and run game control. That angle makes sense when you look at the Cowboys roster. There is talent up front, but consistency has been uneven. A coordinator who builds from physicality, gap discipline, and situational awareness could stabilize the defense without requiring a complete overhaul. Experience in structured systems carries real value when the goal is reliability, not just flashes. Timing remains another variable that complicates everything. Not every interview request gets approved, especially when teams anticipate internal promotions or future plans for their assistants. That forces patience and adaptability. A candidate unavailable now could become available later. And front offices that understand that dynamic avoid locking themselves into early decisions, driven by anxiety rather than clarity. Hovering above the entire process is one name that continues to carry gravity. Brian Flores represents the top tier of defensive coaching on the market. His track record, preparation habits, and ability to disrupt elite offenses are well known around the league. If and when he becomes fully available, every team searching for defensive leadership will want a conversation. That reality alone explains why his situation operates on a different timeline. The absence of immediate movement does not equal a lack of interest. High-level candidates often enter the process later, especially when head coaching considerations remain in play. Schedules change, leverage shifts, interviews are sequenced differently. What looks like hesitation from the outside can actually be strategic positioning behind the scenes. Dallas appears to be working in stages. The early phase focuses on gathering information, aligning philosophies, and identifying fits. That naturally includes virtual meetings and broad outreach. The next phase, which tends to be quieter but more intense, narrows the field and deepens conversations. That is when trust is built, when scenarios are challenged, and when true compatibility is tested. This approach feels unfamiliar because the Cowboys have not consistently operated this way in previous cycles. Past searches often felt fast and predictable. This one is slower, broader, and more deliberate. That does not guarantee the right outcome, but it does suggest a recognition that previous methods had limits. As the rest of the league continues sorting through coaching decisions, the coordinator market is only going to heat up. More openings will appear, competition will sharpen, and top candidates will gain leverage. Dallas sits right in the middle of that storm, needing to stay composed without drifting. The margin for error is thinner now, especially with the division getting stronger and expectations remaining high. And every step in this process carries weight that will be felt long after the hire is made. As this search stretches forward, the tension around it continues to build, not because Dallas is frozen or directionless, but because of how many variables are moving at the same time. From the outside, it can feel like nothing is happening. Yet inside league offices, this is often the most delicate stretch of the process. Conversations happen quietly, priorities shift subtly, and the board changes daily as coaches accept new roles or remove themselves from consideration. One factor that keeps reshaping the landscape is how competitive this particular offseason has become for defensive leadership. The league continues to tilt toward offense, which only increases the value of coordinators who can disrupt timing, confuse quarterbacks, and adjust on the fly. Teams are no longer satisfied with defensive play callers who simply stick to a system. They want teachers, communicators, and problem solvers who can evolve week to week. That demand naturally slows the process because the bar is higher and the evaluations are deeper. For Dallas, the weight of this decision is heavier than it might appear on the surface. The defense has shown it can dominate stretches of games, overwhelm opponents, and create momentum-changing plays. At the same time, there have been moments, especially under postseason pressure, where adjustments lagged and vulnerabilities were exposed. The next coordinator is not just being asked to maintain talent, he is being asked to sharpen it, stabilize it, and guide it through situations where details decide outcomes. That context keeps Brian Flores at the center of the conversation, even without visible movement. His defensive identity is built on preparation, discipline, and controlled aggression. His units consistently challenge quarterbacks mentally as much as physically. That type of presence appeals to teams with championship aspiration because it travels well into January football. Still, Flores represents a significant shift, not just schematically, but culturally. Bringing in a personality with that level of conviction reshapes the room immediately, and that is a decision organizations do not take lightly. There is also the real possibility that Flores never fully enters this coordinator market. Head coaching opportunities remain fluid, and if one opens in his direction, the calculus changes instantly. Even if that does not happen, multiple franchises would pursue him aggressively, creating a competitive environment that forces teams to evaluate how far they are willing to go. Dallas has to balance ambition with realism, understanding that interest alone does not guarantee alignment. That is why the broader candidate pool matters so much. Coaches with strong positional backgrounds continue to draw attention, particularly those tied to defensive line development and run game coordination. Controlling the line of scrimmage remains one of the most reliable ways to dictate games. especially when margins tighten late in the season. A coordinator who builds everything from that foundation can simplify responsibilities behind him, allowing speed and instincts to take over. Rather than forcing constant compensation, communication also plays a larger role than fans often consider. Modern defenses are layered with checks, rotations, and situational calls that require clarity under pressure. The most effective coordinators are not only creative, but precise in how they teach and reinforce concepts. Dallas has invested heavily in defensive talent through the draft, and maximizing that investment depends on how quickly players can process and execute. Scheme matters, but translation matters just as much. The structure of interviews reflects that reality. Virtual meetings help establish philosophical alignment, but in-person conversations are where trust forms. That is where coaches explain how they handle adversity, manage assistants, and respond when game plans break down. Those discussions usually happen later in the cycle. Once teams are confident they are speaking with serious candidates, Dallas appears to be inching toward that stage. Even if it has not become public yet, around the league, franchises are moving on uneven timelines. Some have already filled coordinator roles, while others are waiting for head coaching dominoes to fall. That imbalance can create confusion, but it also creates opportunity. Candidates overlooked early can rise quickly as circumstances change. Teams that remain flexible often benefit, especially when they are willing to revisit names rather than locking into early assumptions. Another layer that cannot be ignored is internal alignment. A defensive coordinator does not operate in isolation. He works within a structure that includes the head coach, the offensive staff, and the front office. Philosophical disconnects can undermine even the most talented schemes. That is why interviews focus heavily on collaboration, adaptability, and shared vision. Dallas needs someone who can assert authority on defense, while still fitting into the broader framework of complementary football. Situational defense remains a defining priority. Third downs, red zone stands, and late-game adjustments are where elite defenses separate themselves. These moments demand clarity, confidence, and preparation. They also reveal how well a coordinator understands both his own personnel and the opponent's tendencies. Dallas has experienced the cost of falling short in these areas, which makes this hire feel less like a vacancy fill and more like a philosophical reset. As the league approaches the phase where coordinator hiring accelerates, outside noise will only grow louder. Fans will demand updates, speculation will intensify, and every quiet day will be interpreted as hesitation. Internally, however, the focus stays on precision rather than speed. The Cowboys understand that this decision will shape the defense not just for one season, but for the identity of the unit moving forward. Before we roll on, subscribe to Cowboys Wire News. Drop a like and turn on the bell. Your support keeps the Dallas Cowboys updates coming. Tell us what you think in the comments. The NFL universe is buzzing with shockwaves tonight, as rumors intensify surrounding one of the league's most iconic quarterbacks. Sources close to the Dallas Cowboys suggest that DAK Prescott, the franchise cornerstone for nearly a decade, has reportedly confirmed his departure from the team. While nothing is officially finalized, insiders hint that discussions have reached an advanced stage, and the quarterback himself may be ready to seek a new challenge elsewhere. Prescott's tenure in Dallas has been marked by highs and lows playoff runs that sparked excitement among fans, combined with seasons interrupted by injury and controversy. Yet, through it all, he remained a face of the Cowboys brand, a player who embodied both leadership and resilience. The speculation of his exit raises immediate questions about the team's direction, with analysts already debating how Dallas could fill the void at quarterback, and whether this move signals a full-scale rebuild or simply a high-stakes shakeup. Across the league, whispers are already swirling about potential landing spots. Teams in desperate need of a proven starter with playoff experience are reportedly circling, with contract negotiations expected to be intense for DAK. The opportunity to join a new roster could offer a fresh start and a chance to redefine his legacy. Outside the shadow of AT&T Stadium, sources close to the situation emphasize that while the departure appears imminent, timing and contract details will play a pivotal role in determining his next destination. Fan reactions have been swift and polarized, with social media exploding in debates over the Cowboys' future and Prescott's next move. Some view the potential switch as a natural progression for a quarterback seeking new horizons, while others lament the end of an era for a player who has been synonymous with Dallas' identity. Meanwhile, NFL insiders caution that until official statements are released, speculation will continue to dominate headlines, fueling endless discussions and hypothetical scenarios as the story develops. One thing is clear: Dak Prescott's reported decision could reshape the NFL landscape. Whether this is the beginning of a new chapter for him, or a harbinger of a dramatic Cowboys transformation, fans and analysts alike are watching closely, bracing for the fallout. From what may be the most surprising offseason twist in recent memory, that's a wrap from Cowboys Wire News. For breaking Cowboys updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Tell us your take in the comments.